Check out our weightlifting camp in Portugal in Praia da Luz in May 27th to the 31st. If you're watching this vlog, there's a good chance you like weightlifting. And myself and Fitz will be there, be coaching through each of those sessions, 10 training sessions, double sessions every day, lectures every day. It's in the south of Portugal. The weather's amazing. The people are lovely. The town is so nice. The gym is perfect. It's great weather, great atmosphere. It'll be a nice holiday. You'll meet some great people. We'll teach you as much about weightlifting as we can possibly manage. We'll teach you technique, programming, exercise selection, variations. We'll take you through what program might look like, and we'll try and set you up for not only for those good training sessions for the camp, but set you up for months or hopefully years of knowledge ahead of you so you can implement that in your training. So check it out. Send us an email at sikastrength@gmail.com. Prices include 2 meals per day, and there is some on-site accommodation, but that is of limited capacity, so do get on it. sikastrength@gmail.com. We are here with a couple of different sessions. We've got nearly 4 different sessions here. Mostly it's weightlifting, no track in this. Weightlifting and plyometrics and hypertrophy work. So a couple of very good sessions, and then one quintessential weightlifting session at the end, which we'll see in a minute. So this session, really good. Great progress on my snatch so far, so I'm very, very happy with that. So implemented some of the changes Anton suggested for my snatch technique, and this 120 session here, I did 2 doubles at 120, so great progression. Very, very happy with how these doubles are moving, and you'll see in a second that they're pretty sharp, if I do say so myself. So main things I'm focusing on here is super, super tight back position. Now, Anton wants my chin up as much as possible, which I haven't done in the last few sessions as much as I could. So he wants like maximum chin up. So for me, that maximum chin up isn't anything amazing given the girthiness of my back. It's not a crazy level of extension. It's not a 49 kilo female thoracic extension, put it that way. Although I am trying to improve it, it will only go so far when you have an ass on your back. So I am trying to get the chin up here. Then I'm keeping the shoulders in front of the barbell and really aggressively sweep it back towards me as I pass the knee, are some of the main things I'm focusing on. And then there's a couple other things I could be working on, but these are the main focuses. So that start position, and then as it passes the knee, even bring it back further towards me. Now, a lot of you might have coached, been in the Facebook group or something like that, and you'll see us talking about sweeping back off the floor. But just because you don't focus on something doesn't mean it's happening. Of course, it's whatever comes naturally. Or you could tell someone, sweep the barbell back off the floor, and it doesn't work. And you could tell them, oh, press your legs into the floor. And then that opens up that knee angle better. So it's just kind of what is happening, is that what we want happening, and it doesn't really matter what you tell someone to do, as long as you get that right outcome. So if you say pink elephant and it gets the right extension, that's all that really matters. So we would never get caught up on cueing. You want to get caught up on good technique and the mechanics behind that. So as usual, when we're doing any training session at the moment in the snatch, it's just lots and lots of volume on the way up until we get to the working sets. Now, some of you viewers, if you do take notice, you might see the overhead position is improving, which I'm very happy about. So it is absolutely going in the right direction. So essentially pretty much every day of the week, there's mobility and band distracted mobility, some internal rotation, lots of soft tissue work, getting the physical masseuse once a week. And it's all adding up, but it just takes time to get those improvements, and it looks very, very good here, so I'm pretty happy with that. It could get better, and it will continue to improve, but as we're getting there. It is. Now, here's 120 kilos for the first one. I'm just really happy with these. So the extension could be a little bit longer, could use my arms a little bit more in the turnover, and I could be a bit straighter, but it is quite close to me, but it is a little bit short and not quite straight enough. That said, they're very good, and I'm very happy with those, which you won't hear me say too often. So here's the second double at 120. So we're looking for a really straight extension. So good speed in this extension, which I'm happy about. Really precise in the bottom position. But I need to work harder on that straighter extension. So I'll be adding in some high pull work into my training on top of like a complex. So high pull plus low hang snatch or similar. And then we moved on to some pulls. So I was asking Anton, I said, do I need to do pulls? How often do I need to do them? Do I need to do them every session? And he was like, yes. Anton loves these pulls. He said, do them every time I snatch to strengthen those positions. Then we moved on to the upper body session. And this was pressing and barbell rows. As you know, I love doing the hypertrophy work in supersets, couplets, whatever you want to call them. just doing them together as pairs, usually antagonistic pairs, so working as much as possible opposing muscle groups. So strict press and barbell rows is a classic, and luckily I have 3 barbells in the shed. I have my original York barbell I bought years ago, got this Workstand barbell and this weightlifting house barbell, doing some of them rows. And upper body sessions, all of that work you see is lots of volume on these. So getting close to failure every maybe second week, but not really that close. Maybe 3 reps shy. So my main aim is to hit a lot of volume with these movements and build as much capacity there and get as much volume as I can in at meaningful weights. So still try and push the weights, but it is still for lots of sets and reps. And the physique changes are there, and of course the changes on my upper body and the muscles that I'm trying to hit are getting there, so I'm quite happy with that. And just did lots of sets of these, as much as maybe I'd say 7 or 8 sets across the supersets. And then we're moving on to this next session where we have some hang snatches. Again, another very good session, which I'm very happy about. You can kind of see that overhead position improving still on this session. So these hang snatches up to 110 kilos, so above the knee hang snatches. You might have seen the reel we made in regards to Carlos Nazar doing hang snatches, and hangs are primarily for speed, above the knee hangs. Now, of course, you're still working in position as always, but there's a little bit more of an emphasis on speed for hang snatches because the position's a bit faker. Your knees are further under the barbell. You're a little bit more upright than you would be in the snatch from the floor, or maybe a low hang snatch. So when we're working up to these are speed, but I'm also focusing on that straight extension as well. Also just kind of liking them because they feel quite good at the moment, which not always the best answer, but it is sometimes important to do a variation that you enjoy doing that feels good, as you might get the benefits from it. Now here's first at 110 kilos, so I think I did 5 or 6 doubles at 110 kilos and just trying to make them as fast as possible, reproducible as possible, and I was very, very happy with those across the session. Still wearing the Luz Arjun weightlifting shoes as well. It hasn't occurred to me to change. I did think the other night maybe I'll try the Rams again, but I'm enjoying the Luz so much that I was like, let's not mess anything up here. Everything feels fine so far. So good testament. As you know, even if I like a shoe, it takes a lot to beat the Ram 2s, and normally after a couple of weeks I'll put them back on. So testament to the pink Luz here, no doubt about it. So another set at 110 kilos, just racking up these. Not much rest between sets, even on those doubles or on these hang snatch doubles or the full snatch doubles. Still, you're looking at, I would say, less than 90 seconds between sets. Just watch the video, see how it felt. Is there anything need to correct? Yes. Focus on the same thing again? Yes. And then repeat again, and we get some nice repeatability and good quality sets. And then what I'm usually looking for is energy level, and then I'm looking for quality of technique and how it's feeling. And then if by the last set I'm like, okay, that's decent. Have I hit enough meaningful volume? Am I 6+ sets at the moment? And I'm like, yeah. And then we kind of make an assessment, and I'm like, that's probably enough for the day. Then moved on to some back squats. Now the hip, while I still call it the hip, it's really hip flexor, a little bit quad insertion, IT band, which are the pain. It's not really the hip per se. It is getting better, so I've really started hammering the soft tissue work on it, and it is so sensitive compared to the other side. So I've been using the barbell and foam roller, and it is improving, but there's a lot of tissue sensitivity, so I just needed to give it that time between sessions, and worked up to some 220 for triples as usual anyway. Really focusing on keeping my hips in here. Now the interesting thing about keeping your hips in is sometimes, even though it slows down the lift, it keeps a little better position, so keeping those hips pushed forward. So you could let those hips fall back, but it makes for a poorer quality squat. Then moved on to our Saturday session, which is plyos and upper body hypertrophy again. So these explosive box step ups, so you can see the right leg, it gets better as I warm up, but the soft tissue is a little bit sensitive. The hip, obviously very, very involved in hip extension here, so the IT band and hip extensors and flexors are getting worked a lot in these movements. So left side obviously better, no pain on my left side. Right side is like mostly a dull ache. Pain is kind of the wrong word. It's just very achy when I'm doing those movements, so I just need to be cautious, but I still have to keep training as such, so it's kind of improve it while still training, and it's not getting worse. It's been something that's been around for a while, and I haven't really addressed it, so it is going to take a while, as I'm sure any of you long-term viewers of the vlogs will know. It's something that I haven't been super diligent about. So you can see as they get better, as the sets get on, definitely a bit more explosive with the single leg stuff. So I love these explosive single leg step ups, is probably what you could call them, as a first warm up of like the first part of the plyometrics. So I like to do a smaller one, constrained one, usually constrained by low height or single leg work, and then move on to the main plyometric, but they're both obviously valuable. Now, I saw a video on Squat Shark Journalist's Instagram just of one of the North Korean weightlifters doing these kind of touch and go box jumps. Now, you'll actually notice that lots of weightlifters do these this way. They'll do touch and go, they'll do pretty high rep stuff, and if you look at videos like Abdi Alkanov has an amazing one, but if you look at a lot of weightlifters, very often they'll do these repeated bout efforts, and there's so much to plyometrics, but ultimately any plyometric makes sense if you're using it correctly. They'll benefit your ability for whatever sport you're doing, and there's things you can make some slightly more specific, but again, plyometric stuff is very, very general, but super useful in the right context. So I just wanted to give these a go. I've been doing box jumps. I don't love very high box jumps, mostly because the danger aspect is hit or miss. There's no real safety net built into heavy or high box jumps. If you mess up, you're landing on, even if it's a soft floor, realistically, you have to jump off something that's pretty solid. You have to jump off a solid surface to allow for maximum force transfer. But if you're jumping off a soft surface, if you're jumping off the foam, then you land on the foam, you're not going to get a good quality jump. So really high box jumps inherently for me are something you're either banging your shins or you're landing on your back or your coccyx or something like that. So they're not something I love doing super frequently. Box jumps are very, very useful, of course, but it's not always for that maximum effort. There's other useful things we can do when you're doing jumps. So here's one of my favorite variations at the moment is single arm Meadows rows. Sometimes I do them touch and go, sometimes I do them the kind of pendlay style, and right side super in tune, great pump on the right side, and the left side just isn't quite there, and obviously it'll come around. This is a great way of doing this, is just focusing on that left side and give it the opportunity. So I start every set with the left side and make sure I'm as fresh as possible to give it an opportunity, and rowing it in as much as possible. That same session I did some supersets with snatch grip press. So I'm pushing the snatch grip press for heavy eights. So I'm up to like 60 for eights. It's obviously very useful for the snatch. And as I was rehabilitating the elbow and the shoulders into new positions, and as I gain range of motion in those, I want to train that tissue and I suppose you could say the motor unit recruitment and the positions and the newness of those positions in some way in that new position. So if I haven't had that range of motion for a while and I haven't been training that position, I want to strengthen that new position and build a strong connection with that new position. So moving on then to Sunday session, we did some singles. Originally I'd intended to go up to 130 or 135, but these just weren't right on the way up, and 110s were okay, but they just still weren't correct. I knew from the barbell that just wasn't on today, and there's no reason I shouldn't have been switched on. So I moved to 120 kilos and I ended up doing 8 singles at 120, and I've just was trying to correct and refine for every single rep. Now, the funny thing is, this was the full day through a really high carb day, so I have 2 high carb days a week now at the moment. As some of the fatigue is building up and the diet fatigue was gathering, and I wanted from Alex is giving me some higher carb stuff to deal with the fatigue, and then normal lower, not super low, it's like 250 gram carbs on my low days, but these high days were 450. So I should have been fresh, and this is just the nature of weightlifting, and it's something that's quite hard to explain to athletes. Is even though a training block could have gone very well, sometimes those maxes just don't happen, or you go for that max and it goes to shit. And weightlifting has so many different variables involved in it, technique, speed, mobility, so many different forms of fatigue that sometimes just shit happens. It's just weightlifting. Weightlifting is a difficult sport, and there's a lot involved in it, and sometimes things just don't quite make sense. It's hard to track all those variables, and so coming to a reasonable conclusion is not always possible. Sometimes it's just shit. That's just the best way you can phrase it, and it's best not to get caught up in it. So for those singles, I was essentially focusing on different things, slightly different things each time, or trying to refine them, watching a video and seeing what I was hitting. So they're still meaningful volumes, so it's obviously my current max. I'm doing bunny ears here, so quote unquote, well over 90%, so lots of singles there, super valuable. But trying to work on a couple of different things that I need to be working on, and then working on them further here in the snatch pulls. So biggest issue was that I wasn't setting my back before I set up, so it was kind of as I was pulling I was tightening up a little bit, and then in the extension I wasn't using my traps and I was leaning away from the barbell, so that back and that chin position were down. So you can see it's slightly better here. You can see a better start position in these snatch pulls. So I did a lot of volume on the snatch pulls as well. Again, I ended up doing like 6 triples at 120. So trying to work on a really tight back as I'm coming down into that start position and pulling off the floor and staying tight throughout that whole lift, tight throughout the extension, and tight throughout the catch, like in the full snatch. So back position, midfoot, need to extend straighter, get my traps involved, pull the elbows a little higher. So it's a couple of things to still work on, but it is a work in progress, and you'll never really be thinking about absolutely nothing unless that one golden day where you hit a PB. Even then, you're still focusing on stuff. So it's a never-ending journey, the never-ending journey of weightlifting. Then we moved on to some 5s. So I did the heavier 220s, heavier, again, bunny ears here, and I just did ascending sets of 5. Now, I wanted to keep going because these felt quite nice, but there wasn't actually much pain in my hip because I'd done like 3 or 4 consecutive days of soft tissue work, but I could feel I was pushing off my left leg a little bit more, and it's not something you want to be ingraining. So I did this top set at 190, a little bit of achiness in the hip, but not as bad, so I still need to keep working on it. So I didn't want to be doing multiple sets where I could really feel in this particular day that I was pushing more off my left leg and the right hip, or the right leg is causing the problem. So I didn't want to be ingraining that kind of process, so I stopped at 190, even though I kind of wanted to go for more and I felt pretty fresh, and obviously I had those carbs available to me, but I didn't want to be stupid about it, and I didn't need to go heavier. I'd done lots of volume during that session, so keep doing the soft tissue work, keep doing the mobility. The elasticity and joint range of motion weightlifting are super important, so it takes a lot of work. So I hope you enjoyed these training vlogs. I'm certainly enjoying training and making them. I think Fitz is going to go to a track session with me on Wednesday, so we might get another track session, and maybe I might test my 40 again and see if we improved from that. What was that, like 6.2 or something? So hopefully we've improved a little bit since then.